Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Famula One. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my sister, Jack.
Hi, everybody.
And we made it, everybody. We made it for real this time. I said we made it last week, but that was just testing. It was fake. We made it. We made it this time.
It is race week.
Yeah, we did it, everybody. It is finally a race week. We will get to the Bahrain chat at the end of the episode, but at the top of the episode, just quick note, because I was bamboozled by this, and so was Jack. Race is on Saturday. Just keep that in mind.
Oh yeah. It's on Saturday.
So if you, like me, had plans to have a bunch of people over for brunch to watch the race, that is going to have to shift to Saturday if you had made the plans for Sunday like I did.
Yeah, which I kind of love a Friday quali.
I do. There's something about a Friday quali.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Which is
I
a
love
treat because typically we only get Friday qualies on sprint weekends.
Yeah,
so.
Because of how they're still doing sprints this year, but
yeah, I don't love the way they do sprints. We'll get to that when we.
Everyone who listens knows that we do not love the sprint format.
We love sprint weekends because there's more fun
love
stuff
sprint
to watch.
Weekends.
But we are team old sprint format from the 2022. Yeah. But testing did conclude, obviously, now that we are in the race weekend. And again, not too much to note, right? With testing, there's, so many variables that we are not privy to so like the times and stuff don't necessarily mean, this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
But I'm going to immediately go back on my word on that because testing day 2, Carlos Sainz was fastest. Testing day 3, Charles Leclerc was fastest. So we're back. Ferrari's back. This is our year.
World champion.
I'm so excited to win everything. We're not going to have bad pit stops. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. It's going to be fabulous.
You're going to have perfect strategy. It's going to be spectacular.
Yeah. Did you see on Twitter, Ferrari posted like a marketing clip that was like the from above pit stop. And even on the marketing clip, you were slow on the front left.
No.
Why did you post that?
Also, yeah, why would you do that to yourself?
It's like, oh, come on, please. But other things to note. So we already talked through last episode, did a bit of a deep dive into testing day 1, so I won't spend too much time there. But testing day 2, so Carlos Sainz was fastest with a 1:29.9. Sergio Perez, Checo, was right behind him. He was about 0.7 down. But this is, again, where we get into the testing times don't really matter because everything that we've seen and heard about the RB20, it's like way, way, way faster. So who knows?
Yeah.
Behind Checo was Lewis, P3, which last time we talked, George Russell was 12th fastest on day 1 of testing. So that's looking much more promising. P4, Lando Norris. P5, Danny Rick.
Still up there, man. Still up there.
Yes. P6, Charles Leclerc. P7, Lance Stroll. 8th, Esteban Ocon. 9th, Valtteri Bottas. And 10th, Oscar Piastri.
Love seeing Valtteri Bottas.
Excited to see Valtteri. I mean, I think it might be that bleach blonde hair. That look really works for him.
It does. And did you see their social media team posted today? It's just like Joe and Valtteri just talking back and forth in their native languages.
I love it.
They're in it.
I love. Also, just off topic, but Zhou Guanyu recently created an Instagram account for his cat, whose name in English is Sweet Corn, and I am in love with Sweet Corn. So check that out if you're looking for cat pictures. But
him and Alex Albon can bond over their pet accounts.
Yeah, and Lewis has an account for his dog.
Yeah, Roscoe.
Pet accounts. Yeah. But so I'll go on to day 3, top 10, and then we can kind of dig into any interviews and things like that. But for testing day 3, Charles Leclerc fastest, George Russell second fastest.
There you go.
Zhou Guanyu third fastest.
Love.
Exciting. Max Verstappen fourth fastest, Yuki fifth fastest, Alex sixth, Alexander Albon sixth, Oscar Piastri seventh, Fernando eighth, Carlos ninth, and Checo 10th.
Yeah. Just emphasizes right that
testing times, again, taken with the biggest grain of salt you've ever seen.
Big grain of salt.
The big flaky salt. Take a big one of those. But this is, I'm like, oh my gosh, Sauber is going to be so competitive, so exciting.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. We'll have to,
I hope so.
We'll really be able to tell that Friday in quali.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, things could go crazy. But one thing I did want to get your thoughts on was Lando. I don't know if you saw his testing interviews, but he didn't seem super confident in those.
I did see those. Yeah, I'm not. I was kind of on the high that you were because Lando and Oscar in top 10s, top 5s. And to hear him say that they can't compete with Red Bull or Ferrari, not great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also kind of shocked that I mean, again, we don't know what the actual car is looking like. But if they kept the car from the end of the season last year, it should still be very competitive in the top 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think he's, from what I kind of gather, it seems like he's expecting to be in that mix, but saying that they are for sure behind Red Bull, obviously, and also behind Ferrari.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's just not where I think I expected them to be, but I also think a lot of that can just be maybe he doesn't want to like overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah. As I've said in the past, big fan of that. big fan of doing that. I could see it being that of not wanting to like kind of eat his own words later on if something goes wrong or if it doesn't perform how he really expects it to. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I'm holding out for. Because they had a great car at the end of last year.
Yeah, so I can imagine it's so far off. But
yeah,
did you also see his whole Twitter bio fiasco?
I didn't understand what that was about.
So this is like we are getting to Swiftie level like conspiracy theories, and I love it. Support all of you so much. But basically what happened was Lando's Twitter bio was I raced fast cars with McLaren F1. And then after testing, he took out the fast. So it just said I race cars with McLaren F1. And then everyone noticed it. So then he changed it to I race super fast cars with McLaren.
Yeah.
F1. Okay. But everyone took the removal of the fast to mean cars not fast. I don't know why he removed it.
It's such a weird thing to...
I almost wonder if he did it on purpose to see if people would react the way that they did.
Well, and I think he also changed his header photo because that's what I was focusing on. I was like, why do people care why he's changing his header photo? At least from like the screenshots I saw, the header photos were different. And I also don't have Twitter. So Jimmy, you'll have to correct me. Is there like a character limit in a bio?
I have not updated my bio in years, so I don't know. But there's no way it's like a character limit thing because then when he updated it again, he made it even longer.
Oh yeah,
so I don't know. I do think had it been true, or had he just like the reason he took it out was like the car's not fast this year, I'm gonna delete it. That would have been hilarious. Objectively hilarious. Way to just like act out.
I also think that would be something Lando would do. Like that's like he would do something like that.
Yeah. My guess is he was just like, maybe he was reading it back and was like, oh, I feel like this sounds better if I just say I race cars.
Yeah.
But hilarious it made me think back to, because also I'm very gullible. So I was like, oh my God, convinced car's not fast suddenly because everyone on Twitter is saying that's why he removed it.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of, if any of you are Taylor Swift fans, I, due to Twitter, was convinced that Taylor Swift was going to announce Reputation Taylor's version at the Grammys. Imagine my shock
This
when she
year?
announced a brand new album. Yeah.
I think everyone did. I think everyone thought that she was gonna drop it. But yeah, there wasn't a lot going on, so I think F1 Twitter took it and ran with it.
Yeah, same, very similar. I think this, let me clarify how I'm feeling about this. This reminds me of, and I think the reason that this caught on so much is because at the end of testing last year, Charles Leclerc posted an Instagram that was like, testing done, ready to go, with the upside down smiley emoji.
Oh,
And
great emoji.
then, yeah, fantastic emoji, use it all the
Great
time.
emoji.
At the end of that season, Charles Leclerc did say, like, I basically knew at testing there was something wrong with this car. So I think people were watching very closely to driver social medias to try to get the
Mm.
hints of like an emoji, a bio change.
Yeah, bio change. I hope
Things
that it
got
doesn't
a little out of
mean.
hand, I think. I think things got just a little bit out of hand.
Oh, because nothing ever gets out of hand with F1
Never,
fans.
never, never.
Never. I think I'm hoping 2024 is the year of delusional positivity. I'm going to be delusionally positive and say that it means nothing and that the car is super fast.
Yeah. And you know, what harm are we doing to anyone by being delusionally positive? No, nothing.
None. Maybe just ourselves.
Well, yeah. But if we can maintain the delusional attitude,
We'll be fine.
then yeah, like, we'll just end up at the end of the season being like, it was stolen from my driver. My driver was doing so well on season.
I will spin whatever. I can spin it. Um, Worked in PR. I can spin it. We'll do an episode of just spinning.
Yeah. We should do like mid-season a delusional positivity episode where we're like, well, this thing happened, but here's how we're gonna look at it to remain delusionally positive.
I love that idea. You
All
know how
right.
it's like
Coming soon, everybody.
Aston Martin last year was like, "Oh no, well Lance and Fernando are on the same level," and we're like,
Well, no, that was just
"The-
blatant lying. That wasn't delusional positivity, in my opinion. And
that
I
was
say
just
this
lying."
as, with all the love and support in my heart for Lance Stroll, that man is not on the same level as Fernando Alonso. Anyone can see it. That's lying. That is not delusional positivity.
It was just lying. Okay, yeah, delusional positivity. There is a line.
Yeah. Yeah. Will we cross it? Probably. But
It'll be like some of those girl math things. It'll be like, "Wow, it took you a while to get there, and you had to do a lot of spinning, but we get there."
we're gonna girl math our way to a Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri four-way tie in the drivers' championship.
For first.
Yeah, we're that's what we're doing. So mid-season, we'll see how things go. Maybe we'll need it sooner than that, but around
Yeah.
mid-season, get ready for the delusional positivity spinning episode.
Okay. I'm so pumped for that episode.
Um, in other news, though, something else
Okay.
happened. Drive to Survive season 6.
Yeah. Did you
Thoughts,
watch it?
feelings, emotions. Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, same. Actually, that is a lie because I skipped some of the second Alpine episode. That's right. There are 2 Alpine
Yeah.
episodes. 2 more than there needed to be. Because they were not a major storyline at all during the season.
Everything that they talked about in those episodes, like it could have all fit into one. It wasn't
It
really.
all could have fit into one. They introduced like 6 people saying that this is like the team principal. It was very confusing. There was only one scene with Ryan Reynolds, very upset.
Yeah, they clickbaited us on that one,
They
which I
clickbaited the
respect.
hell out of
But
us. Which
The
that's
clip
their
of
thing.
Ryan Reynolds in the trailer is the clip
That's
of
it.
Ryan Reynolds in Drive to Survive, the
If
same
you
one.
wanna watch Drive to Survive for Ryan Reynolds, don't.
Really
Um,
disappointed.
I just wanna know, like I was talking about this with our dad, of what bribery did Netflix accept between all of the 2 Alpine episodes and the Lawrence Stroll fixation, and him coming off as, like, this Bond villain.
But then,
People
like, a
are
really sweet
fearing
dad.
him, but such a sweet dad, and,
I
like,
loved that. I
I
loved the Lawrence Stroll edit. I was like, "Yes, this man is, I think, honestly, on Earth, one of the closer things we will ever see to a supervillain." But it was it was nice to see that, like, the edit that he got where it was like, "Mr. Stroll's arriving. Oh, wipe this down. That's Mr. Stroll's area. It's gonna be wet. Mr. Stroll's arriving. Da da da."
he doesn't
And
get a
then
wristband. Don't even
just
look at him if you
yeah.
like, don't look at him while
Also,
he passes you.
the fact that they included billionaire Toto Wolff needed a wristband, but Lawrence Stroll didn't. Like all that stuff. I was like, I'm living for this. And then he turns around and he's like, I'm a dad and I'm so worried about Lance. I was like, I'm here for this. I'm here for this.
It
This is like when you learn about the villain's like backstory and you're like, wait, I
Yeah.
sympathize with you now. That's exactly what it was.
I just, like, everyone is also afraid of him.
Yeah. I
All
think
the all none of the, uh or they made it seem like they asked every team principal about Lawrence Stroll, and none of them would really say anything besides, he's like Lance's dad. Um, he's a strong businessman. That was also said so many times in that episode.
well, I would not. I think it's very obvious. Honestly, you don't even have to watch Drive to Survive. I feel like to get this vibe, like you do not want to be on his bad side.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and also,
Yeah.
by the way, Lawrence, when I called you a villain, I meant it with love.
Yeah, like,
Please don't be mad.
with a ton of respect.
Yeah, yeah.
Villain. Yeah, those were things I was like, "This is crazy." I'm trying to think of what else. Was there anything that stuck out to you?
Things really the top of my mind are not. I maybe need to give it more thought on things that stuck out to me in terms of like the actual season. Also, why was there so much Bonotto? Why was there like a whole scene with Bonotto and Gunther at a winery
They're
again?
they're really working on that spinoff with Bonotto
I
and
would watch that.
Gunther.
I would
I would
absolutely watch
totally
that.
watch it.
But in my list
Absolutely.
of things that were left out, I'm like, maybe could we have cut the Gunther Bonotto stuff for maybe other things?
For Qatar, for Oscar winning the sprint, for,
For the
like,
entire Checo storyline, for Lewis
yeah.
getting pole in Hungary, for the double disqualification at Coda, for the
Yes.
formation, for everything Brazil, including like the formation lap, like all of this. Um,
They also kind of just glossed over how wild Australia was
yeah. Well, they really
with
only focused on what they touched on it in the Williams
they
one,
touched on it in the
um,
Williams because they crashed, and they touched on it in the
in
Alpine because
Alpine,
they also crashed.
but they completely left out like really anything at all about Logan.
Yep. Being
The
the first
Checo one
American
is
to get a point in
The
how many
Checo
years?
storyline is crazy that they left it out to me because they said like multiple times throughout the season, especially on the Danny stuff, like, oh, well, Danny's a prospect for us in 2025. So then let's get into like who's in that seat right now and are they a prospect for 2025? Are you considering re-signing Checo? Like, let's get into that.
Christian Horner was talking about Checo and Drive to Survive as if he is already he's
Gone.
written off Checo
Yeah.
and that he's not going to be there, and that Yuki Liam Lawson is also a contender for that seat, and
Yeah.
Danny Rick and Lando.
Yeah.
He talked about his
Love
obsession with Lando.
Yeah, there was a whole like at least 20-minute segment that was just about how much everybody loves Lando, which like I'm not
I'm
mad
here
at,
for
but I
it.
was like, oh, okay. But the craziest thing for like also they included Checo's DNF in Mexico in like the clips, in the marketing clips, but they don't
They
get into
talked
that
about
at
it.
all.
I feel like they talked about it in the Ferrari episode.
And like, yeah, they mentioned like, oh, contact with Charles Leclerc, but they don't get into like the
Yeah.
context of that. They don't get into, they really didn't. And I do think this is partially because one, Max doesn't have any interest in being involved in the show. And I think therefore Red Bull is like not as involved anymore and
Yeah.
doesn't give them as much access. But they really only touched on how historic of a season this was for Max, like at the last episode.
Yeah. Which a part of me is like, I get to an extent, um, because I personally don't want to relive him winning every single race again.
But I think it would have resonated more when you get to like the Singapore. And
Yeah.
yes, because they did do, I feel like, a nice job editing with like Monza before, and like they couldn't make it happen. They couldn't catch Red Bull. And then getting to Singapore where they were able to win, Carlos was able to win, Ferrari was able to win. But I think that would have packed so much more of a punch if they were really driving home how historic
Yeah.
the run that Red Bull had was.
Uh-huh.
And like I think they could have done a better job driving home how impressive it was that Liam Lawson knocked them out of qualifying.
Yeah, I'm glad he had his moment because
Mhm.
it was very well deserved.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's
I also
bananas they
like
didn't include
how
anything about Qatar. I think that's crazy. So much happened at Qatar.
so much happened, but Las Vegas gets a whole episode.
Yeah, like
Another
the
person who paid
crash,
Netflix, Las Vegas VP, definitely paid Netflix. Why does
like
it have a whole episode? It didn't need to.
Qatar, Max secured the championship.
Yep.
Oscar won the sprint.
Yep.
The Mercedes like collision where Lewis
Yep.
DNF'd turn one, all of the heat stuff, the health stuff,
The mandatory
Lance with
pit
his
stops.
mandatory pit stops, the tire stuff, Lance with his trainer, all of that,
Yeah.
none of it was even touched on.
None of it.
And like I do understand the, you know, you can't include every single little detail, right? Like there are smaller things that I think were really cool that I understand why Netflix, they're trying to create a storyline, they're trying to tell a story through this season. Um, but there are just major things that I think would have added to the stories they were already trying to tell.
Yeah.
Like the Williams, and you know that I enjoyed that comparison of like Williams versus Haas, where it's like these two struggling teams that have really different philosophies and are trying really different things. But going into the Logan Sargent of it all, of like Logan's this really, really young driver. And how does James feel about his performance and his struggles? And where was that story? Nowhere.
Yeah. Did Logan even talk? I think we just see him sit down in the chair and then do
Yeah.
the thing, and then that's it.
Yeah. I don't think he had any interview clips.
I don't think he did either. James Vowles did. He did well.
James did well. And I liked the way they did that comparison. Oh my gosh, how did we not mention surprise personality for the season, Claire Williams?
Oh
I
my
was
gosh, I
so
love her.
I was so when she came up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Claire, welcome back.
Yeah.
Missed you so
We
much."
Yeah, she was like, "Did you miss me?" I was like, "I actually really did." And I
Yeah.
think that she added something of that ex principal
Mhm.
that was really interesting and added a lot to the show, especially
Yeah.
with new principals coming on, the choice to get rid of Otmar in the middle of the season and in the middle of a race weekend,
Yeah.
adding so much to it. I think she did a phenomenal job, and I hope
Yeah.
she's back next
And
season.
I was so glad she was back. I completely agree. I think she also I found her insights really valuable in the McLaren episode
Mhm.
when she was talking about like all the pressure from all the different sides when you're a team principal and you're not performing well, and like the sides of like we don't see those conversations with sponsors. We don't see we can assume that sponsors are unhappy, but seeing that and then getting the side from your drivers are also unhappy and like all
Yeah.
of that. I found her very valuable. I wanted more of her.
Yeah, I think she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. I also, speaking of the McLaren episode, I enjoyed the insight they allowed us to get to like that hard time and like, Zach's stress of my drivers and my sponsors aren't going to want to stay if things stay the way that they are. I was a little surprised that they didn't lean more into like the comeback story for
Yeah, it was
everyone
more of
throughout
the
the season.
struggle than
And then they
the
touched
success.
lightly on success, right? They showed like the Silverstone podium and things like that.
Yeah, that was really it. I kind of wish they would get away from doing team episodes and just really stick with like the major storylines and then
Mhm.
whoever goes in. Um,
Yeah. And I think that is where we get into like who is this show for, right?
yeah.
Because we want the storylines throughout the season, but I think it makes more sense to a new fan to have these are the characters that you're basically focusing on for this episode
Yeah.
and you get to know them, which makes sense. But I just think there are changes that could be made to make that done better. I will say I don't feel like there was too much manufactured drama,
No. I
which I
loved
liked.
what they showed of Lando and Oscar,
Mhm.
just their friendship. They seem to
Yeah,
be
they were
getting on really well.
like it was like a brother relationship.
And the way they introed Oscar is just so on brand
Yeah.
that he's standing outside McLaren HQ.
Yeah, can't get in.
Can't get in.
And even the Alpine feud that they really were alluding to, they did definitely give that a lot of airtime. But I think it was done in a way where I was like, this doesn't even seem manufactured to me. This is just like how they are.
Yeah, because it was all true. It's all stuff that, like, I think even we talked about with, like, on the podcast of we're interested to see their dynamic because
Mhm.
it goes back to their karting days and they went
Yeah.
into that. Like, it's all things that we've gone over, um, and we're interested in too. It's just so interesting too. Maybe it's because I'm in like a real corporate setting, but how they will still even be like beefing and like making jokes about fighting in that setting. Do you get what I'm saying?
No.
Like, there will be times, like, I think really just when they were doing the karting, when,
Mhm.
Pierre and Esteban were doing karting and, they were, like, making jokes about, like, pushing each other off, and when Esteban hit the grass and went off, like, Pierre made a joke, like, "I didn't touch him, I was ahead of him," or, like, something
Mhm.
like that. Like, I don't know, I think, like, in my own corporate setting, like, I would never it would just all be we're just cordial to each other, like, we wouldn't even joke about not getting along.
Yeah. I mean, I think
But I
part
guess
of
it's
that
a
comes
totally
with like
different setting.
and also, yeah, they're your coworker, but they've also known each other since they were like 5.
Yeah.
So I think and it's obviously they're there to drive. That's their job. They're drivers. But especially since the explosion of Formula One, their whole personality is kind of part of the brand.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
I
why you
can
pick
get,
your team, right? It's because of your drivers and things like that.
yeah. So, you know, I think overall, it was one of the better seasons. I don't think
I
they
think I
relied too
agree.
much on like creating things, and I think they did a good job of telling most of the stories. I think there's always going to be things where it's like, why did they focus so much on this, or why did they ignore this? This was, I
Yeah.
think, one of the better seasons, though.
Yeah, I agree. Um, did you have a favorite Will Buxton quote?
Oh, yes, of course. I actually posted a TikTok to it. Halves are in a really difficult spot. It's not even bringing a knife to a gunfight. They bring a spoon.
So funny.
The way he said it too, I was like, oh, I actually
No, and
like
the
this.
way he also he was, like, kinda defeated. He was just like, "It's
Yeah.
so bad." Like, he was just like, "It's so bad."
And he's right,
Oh, yeah.
which is crazy that Gene Haas sees all the things that we do and more and is like, "We don't need more money." Gene, be so for real right now.
Yeah. Be so for real. It's bad. I don't know.
Did you have
I
another
would be
one, or was
interested.
this one your favorite
No,
too?
that will because I texted you being like, "Hey,
Mhm.
well, let's share our favorite Will Buxton." After he said that, I was like, "Let's share our favorite Will Buxton," and then you immediately was like, "Dibs."
Yeah, clocked it.
Um, I don't think anything else he said was like super things that he hadn't said before.
Yeah,
Like in Italy, there's like two religions. It's like the Catholic Church and Ferrari.
yeah. I was like, "Okay, dramatic,"
Accurate.
but I see what you're trying to
Uh,
say.
yeah. Um, yeah. I also liked how they did that angle too of kind of like the Italian people and their absolute love and obsession with Ferrari because
Mhm.
just an added pressure for the team of Ferrari.
Yeah, and it's
I
unique
loved
to Ferrari.
yeah. Um
Other teams obviously have their big, really intense fan bases. I mean, Max has super intense fans with the, like, orange flares and everything, but this is, like it's a country, the whole country, and it's, like, so
yeah.
steeped in history and tradition. It's extremely whole different level of pressure.
Yeah. I thought that was just really interesting. I also loved how I think they showed like Fred Vassar's personality pretty well.
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah. I liked how they kinda went into, like, he's not the typical Ferrari pick,
Yeah. Not
and
serious, not
doesn't speak
Italian.
Italian. Yeah, so it's and knowing obviously they don't touch on Lewis signing for Ferrari. They do touch slightly on like Lewis's anger with the team, which I thought was a great setup for what ended
Yeah.
up happening. Um, but knowing kind of like what Fred's managed to do in just a short amount of time in terms of just really like personnel changes
Yeah.
and drivers and things like that. It's I think he was a good call, a good hire from Ferrari.
Yeah. Well, because, they go into his history too, right? Of he was the Alfa Romeo team principal for 6 seasons, I think it
Mhm.
was. But he's been in this industry for decades and
Yeah.
he's helped numerous drivers and um, created their careers and created them who they are now. So I really like him. I think he's very funny and he's like a breath of fresh air,
Mhm.
especially with all the seriousness that is Formula One. He's like the Danny Rick, I think, of
Yeah,
the team
of the team
principals.
principals, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's like I he and, James Vowles are definitely up there. James Vowles, I think, is my favorite team principal, but I find the, like, breath of fresh air to kind of apply to both of them in very different ways.
Yeah.
Like, I find James Vowles, his leadership style and the way that he shares things to be a breath of fresh air where he's very honest and he's very, like, this is what our situation is. He's honest about where they're at. He's honest about things that happen. Um, and then with Fred, it's like he's just not everything is such the end of the world. It doesn't feel like it's the end of the world when you're talking to Fred.
Yeah.
I enjoy.
They're both breath of fresh air for sure. Also got to throw in McLaren's team principal. He's never in Drive to Survive, but he's my favorite team principal,
Mhm.
Andrew Stella. I love that man. I think he is kind of similar to like James Vowles of like the meekness of both of them. Um, just Zach Brown just loves a camera.
Hmm. Yep. Oh, something testing related that meant to bring up earlier, but it just came back up. Um, have you seen all the reports and estimations that apparently the Alpine is like a tractor?
No, no.
People are saying it's like
Are there
all of
gears?
the all of the professional people that look at all the testing numbers and like know more than what Jack and I know are saying like they are consistently ranking the Alpine from what they've seen so far worst aerodynamically, worst on speed. So that will be interesting to see. Otmar,
He has
that
his
will be
revenge. Do they still have the person that finished the season last year? Is he the team principal again? Do you know?
I don't know about that. If they
'Cause
did get a new team principal, it's not like it
yeah,
wasn't news. I'm sure they reported on it if they did, but it wasn't one that like took over headlines. So it could
because
be
as Claire Williams said, the icon that she was like, "You're putting in somebody in one of the most stressful, important jobs, and he's never done it before."
that could be, I mean, I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm curious to see if people are right.
Yeah,
Because that could change things up too. If Alpine's at the back, that
opens up
up, right? And that's
top
less
five.
cars to fight up at the front, and there's more points scoring spots. Because this past year, Alpine, were they like crazy impressive every race? No. I mean, they had like a couple podiums, but they were consistently scoring points.
That's the crazy thing too. Is they talked about like bad luck, and you can't say everything's bad luck, which I totally agree. But they did have a lot of bad luck
Mm-hmm.
with crashes and things that weren't their own fault, specifically those crashes.
Yeah. I look back on Alpine's season this past year and I don't feel like it was a horrible fall from grace or anything. Yeah, they finished fourth in the constructors in 2022 and they were sixth, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think that paints a full picture of where they were at. I think really what happened was other teams took a step forward and Alpine didn't. I don't
Yeah.
think it was that they necessarily brought a car that was that much worse, or the team was that much worse, or things went that much worse. It was just better development on other teams. I mean, Aston shot right up to the top.
Yeah. And then there were teams that made upgrades and put
Exactly.
in work in the season and propelled forward McLaren, Williams, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Including Haas in that too, because they tried to do upgrades and things, and none of what they were doing was working.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I think
Overall,
overall,
I think it was a good season though,
yeah.
compared to I didn't like season 5. I think season 5 was I didn't like it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked it. I managed to weasel my way through watching the season still on mom and dad's Netflix login. They
yeah.
almost caught me. I logged in to go watch it and it was like, you're not in your headquarters or whatever they call it. And I was like, no. And so then I got dad to do the like text verification. And I watched a bunch of it. And then I was like, I should watch like most of it because I don't know if they're going to lock me out again. And I don't really want to pay for Netflix just to watch Drive to Survive. I don't watch any other shows on Netflix. But I managed to weasel my way into watching the whole thing on their login. So now my Netflix situation is a next year problem.
yeah, you got a full year.
Yeah. So we're good.
We're good.
And
Yeah, I don't know what to watch now that I like blew through Drive to Survive.
yeah, well, I don't know if you can tell from your Hulu watch history, but I've been cranking through
Yeah, you're on
Criminal
my
Minds.
Hulu. Oh,
Cranking.
really?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. I'm like never on Hulu. Anyway.
Anyway. Speaking of streaming services, I don't know where you watch Formula One, but the times for this weekend, like we mentioned, the race is on Saturday, March 2nd, and
Yep.
it is at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Pretty
Um,
sick. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great time too.
Big fan
Love
of
when
that
it's
time.
yeah. I do when we get into that like long stretch where we have a bunch of races at like 6:37 a.m. I do get used to it and then I do start to like kind of enjoy it because I like, get my
Yeah, start
get
your
my
day.
fun little coffee and then, watch the race. But 10's a good starting point. But I'll go through all of the timings. So practice one tomorrow, February 29th at 6:30 in the morning. FP2 is tomorrow at 10 a.m. FP3 is Friday from 7:30 to 8:30. Quali is Friday at 11. And then we
Love
have
it.
the race.
And then we're racing.
You want to make your P1, P2, P3 prediction?
I I don't like being wrong. So we're doing top 3. Podium.
Mm-hmm.
P1 Max. P2 Checo. P3 Lando.
Since you went safe, I'm going to go delusional positive. Balance it out.
Okay.
So
I don't know if
I am going to predict, and God forbid you clip this and this ends up on the wrong side of Instagram because we're going to get so much.
I know.
But my prediction is going to be P1, Carlos Sainz, P2, Charles Leclerc, P3, Oscar Piastri.
So what, Max, like DNFs?
Yeah, maybe they have like mechanical problems or something.
The rocket ship won't rocket.
Maybe the rocket ship's actually a rocket and it just takes off into space. We don't know.
And he just gets a bunch of. I wonder how strict they're going to be with track limits this year.
I think the rule is the same, so they probably will
It'll
be,
be the same.
which is annoying. I hate track limits violations. So annoying. Except that one time, I forget which race it was, where
When it worked
after
for us.
well, no, after the fact, that was another good one. But after the fact, the FIA was like, by the way, here's all these penalties. We just went back through and gave everybody penalties, and they gave Esteban like 45 seconds of penalty.
Do you follow James? What's his last name? Cocker? Is that what his last name is? Coker?
Yeah.
Coker? So he has an F1 fantasy league, and he'll randomly go through and look at the names that people are for their teams, and he'll pick out some of his favorites. And one person's team name is another penalty for Ocon.
That joke, I really don't think will ever get old because without fail, every time F1 news comes out, someone will quote tweet it on Twitter and be like, how can we make this a penalty for Esteban Ocon?
Yeah. Or remember when that person was like, I'm watching F1 for the first time. I genuinely thought Ocon was
A
the
penalty
name
type.
of the penalty. Yeah. Because it came up so much.
Oh boy. Oh, I can't wait to get back to
I can't
F1
wait to see the
to
boys.
see more Esteban penalties, to see what they figure out to give him a penalty for this year. Truly.
Or what they're going to do after races. You know, they added on penalties, they disqualified people.
Yep. Yep.
They'll keep it interesting.
We're getting ready for a big year, everybody. So
24 races this year.
24 for 2024. Big.
Yep.
But
Hong Kong is back on the grid.
The next time we talk to you, we will have a much better picture of where things stand, at least at the beginning of the season. We will have our first podium. We will have points on the board. And we will be just about to head to the IndyCar season opener. So we got big, big stuff all around.
I'm so excited.
I feel like
so
myself
excited.
again now that we have racing returned for some and about to return for other series.
Yeah.
What more could you want?
I feel like I was raised out of a coffin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like exactly how it feels when it's like the first spring day.
Yeah.
you know, when you like go outside and it's finally warm, this is how it feels, which is
And we
great because we get this and then we'll actually get a spring day when we get down to Florida. So it'll be awesome.
I know we'll see the sun.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see the sun. Well, you might be seeing the sun, but Boston is
It was like
so very
rainy and
cold.
cold today. So not much sun happening in the last couple days in DC, but it's all good.
Yeah.
We will get through it. But everybody enjoy the race. Enjoy the first quality of the year. Can't even talk. I'm so excited. And have a fantastic week. Love you so much. Talk to you soon. Love you.
Bye, everybody.
I'm too excited. I can't focus.
We're so excited.